Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Acolyte, Star Wars The Acolyte review, episode 3. I forgot to do this last week. I usually do this all Star Wars, so I got to bring it back. It's been a hot minute, but I am the number one Kylo Ren fanboy, Travis Snell, and I'm joined
The
by
controversial Taylor Field.
controversial Taylor Field. Oh my goodness, maybe he has some hot takes in here. Maybe he thinks Star Wars was destroyed. I don't know. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, no Kirkland because I think he might be on news, but it's a combo of he has supposedly Shay's birthday, and then also he's packing for a trip because he's going to be gone for a little bit. So we're going to hold down the fort. So we won't get to hear his thoughts about Acolyte until maybe next week, if not 2 weeks from now. But the Cantina boys are here to give you your fix. So obviously, if you want to know our thoughts, you can go back to last week for the first 2 episodes. We're going to, as usual, do a non-spoilers thoughts. And if you've not seen the episode, we'll take a little break, and then you get some ads, and then you'll hear, the set ads, and then you'll hear our spoiler thoughts. So, yeah, we'll get in that. Everything you need to know is down below. The Podio feeds, as we used to call them. I'm re-listening to some of the X-Men retrospectives, and we used to call them the Podio feeds for a while. So podcast audio, but yeah, lots of stuff there. A big thank you to we had multiple people this week up their subscription, so thank you very much to Patreon. Really appreciate it. We always appreciate the support. That is the best way to support us because we are content creators or independent content creators. Everything we do, extra shows. Stuff like our movies, which tune into our newscast this week. We got some fun news there. Is all supported by each and every one of you. So we thank you, and you get stuff ad-free, exclusive, early, after 9, get to call in. So lots of good stuff there. So not only do you support us, not only do you get to create more content, you are getting a bevy of content on there, and we very much appreciate you doing that. So yeah, let's get into this. Discord and everything. Yeah, Discord. All the links are down below. And if you can't, just rate, review, subscribe. We would very much appreciate that. Everything helps us out. So yes, we are here to talk about the Acolyte. So Mr. Field, obviously, been a lot of buzz in our Discord. Been a lot of buzz in general, because not just Discord. There's lots of people saying, "Oh, episode 3, there's some stuff in there," and it is a different type of episode for a multitude of reasons. So 1, did you like it? And then 2, what are your non-spoiler thoughts?
Oh, okay. So this episode, I loved it. I thought it was great. I
Oh,
thought it was really, really awesome. I have like non-spoilers. I mean, it was exciting. I felt like I was getting Phantom Menace vibes in here, and in like a distorted dystopian kind of way, but it was just kind of hitting these keynotes that I really, really enjoyed. And uh, I'm watching through the episode, and I'm with Madison, of course, and I told her about the whole dilemma going on and people kind of saying whatever about this episode, and we're trying to pick apart. Okay, is this the moment where this is where people are kind of feeling a little iffy on? And then another thing happens, like, oh no, that's got to be the moment. Another thing happens, oh no, that's got to be the moment. And really, there wasn't really anything super, super bad. Well, I definitely can identify what I'm assuming is the thing that people are very much
I'm excited for you to tell me because I don't know
torching
what it
their.
is. I don't know what it
You don't
is.
know what it is? I
And
think
if
I think
it,
I know what it is.
and if it is what I think it is, then it's like the most
It
lowest
probably is.
tier stuff
But it's been
ever.
done
But
before. We've seen it before in Star Wars too. Again, that doesn't mean it's good, but it's
yeah,
something that is familiar, and it just kind of goes to show that in Star Wars, really, if I say that, that's a spoiler. There are things you can do in Star Wars that people might not really like. It's very much out there from what the original trilogy is, obviously. But there are things that they've adapted over time, whether you've seen in the Clone Wars even, where they've done certain things where it just kind of it makes sense. Like you can tap into this certain kind of narrative with a certain type of character, and you can pull off a certain type of storyline, and trying to be as vague as possible.
a certain this, a certain that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't feel like everyone is entitled to feel however they want, but I don't feel like it's necessarily warranting all this overreaction and this craziness. I mean, I feel like, damn, I got a great Star Wars episode. I got some juicy stuff in here, and I had a good time with it.
Yeah, so for me, it's the tale of two things. All that stuff like that about the destroying Star Wars or this or jump. I don't think there's anything. I think there's two things. That's one like a political one where I'm like that I don't care about, and another one when we're going to spoil something about maybe how people feel the Force is being used. But for me, It's tough because I guess I'll wait till spoilers, but it doesn't affect me because I've also had things about the Force that I don't like. I think I like the structure of this episode. I wanted a similar type of episode. It's not exactly what I pitched, but it's like the idea of, oh, it'd be cool if they do this, because a lot of times I feel like the Disney Plus and Star Wars episodes don't do these kind of pocket episodes where it's like, let's take a break. I remember they did Mandalorian, and a lot of people hated it with the guy that was the cloner guy, and Katie Bryan was in there. Remember, Kirkland hated that episode where it's all about the Empire. So I like that, and I feel like lots of people maybe in the mainstream don't. But I think if you got a great character or great story in a pocket episode, it's worth it. And that's all I'll say is they did it here, and I thought it was a great usage of it. I liked a lot of the lore stuff with the group we met. I really liked. I gotta find out the actress's name who played a mother. I'll just say, because I think she had like a hit HBO show, and I know she's been in other things, but I don't think I've seen her in anything. And man, she was damn good. Like I'm gonna go look into these things she's done, because she was just like flawless performance. So that was good. I think I had, much like episode 1 and episode 2, I had issues with the ending of the episode, more so with this. This is one where I kind of have to walk on eggshells, because I don't know if I don't like the ending because it's poor writing, or if there's kind of a misdirect or something going on. I still have a few things that I think are some poor writing where I go, this doesn't make sense, or we needed more time to stew on this, or we need more examples. I think sometimes there was one particular large leap that I just couldn't buy into, but I also really liked it. It took me on a journey I was not expecting. And from the first 2 episodes, when we thought, the story of what the twins would be, I think this puts it in a very much different light. And I really like that. So overall, I'm positive. The ending is like a wait and see, even though I do have some gripes of, I didn't like that, didn't enjoy that. But yeah, so far, I don't know where I'd rank it among the other 2. I think they're kind of the same. If there's certain things like, there has to be an explanation for the thing I have a problem with at the end, and hopefully it is a fulfilling one, because if not, then this would easily be, just like if I have what I have now, this would easily be the last episode and the one I enjoyed the least. But I really liked a lot of the things that happened here, so overall I'm still enjoying it about the same, but I'm very curious to see the follow-up on, I don't even know if it'll happen next week, but within these next few episodes. Again, I still wish the runtime was better, but at the same time, there's many great shows that are like, look at X-Men, right? That's a half an hour, under half an hour. We never watch those episodes being like, oh, the runtime, right? So at the same point, I sometimes maybe got to stop blaming that, because it is, we talk about in the Discord, it's like, it's also just like, what can you do with the time, right? So yeah, is there anything else non-spoilers you want to get to?
I got nothing.
That fucking beeping Taylor's back. I don't know what it is.
Oh,
The fucking people that
no.
don't know on other cats, you can't hear it. Luckily, it just annoys me. So I'm not sure if it's like all these USBs put together. What do I have on my right side here? I don't even have another. The stupid Mac Air books, all these USBs. Now it's just down to 2. That's so annoying. But you know what? I will power through. But it's gonna just drive me out the fucking wall. Hopefully you don't hear it every 10 seconds. Great. Spoilers review. We're gonna get into it right after this. Okay, and we are back. So yeah, let's start with, what do you think is like the is I guess we
You
are,
want to know
right?
what it is?
Is it really just that because there's like a gay couple in Star Wars that
No,
this is going to be
no.
okay?
You have 2 females,
Yes.
a female that carried the twins, and another female that got her pregnant.
Yes.
That's 100%. I'm calling out what people are pissed off about. What's the issue? Are people pissed off because, I mean, they didn't cover it in Phantom Menace, but technically, if you read
That
Vader
happened.
comics, Palpatine was doing it. So, I mean, the Force. Are you pissed off that Force users, and this isn't exclusively a Sith Lord, like a male thing only that they could do? I mean, if you're powerful in the Force, which these are witches, so of course they're going to be doing some fucked up shit. I think it's totally justified and fair that they created something like this. They were cast out and. People need to calm the fuck down. This is where it felt like a Clone Wars episode mixed in with the Phantom Menace, and I was eating all this up. I thought it was great. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I guess that's why for me I just didn't have a problem with it, because it's just like you said, it's stuff we've seen before, even without the comic. I think there's enough allusions in the prequel trilogy that Palpatine created Anakin just out of thin air, and I'm saying that lightly, but because he used the Force, right? And then I just feel like even I was there like maybe I guess it's not. I thought there was stuff in one of the original scripts that alluded that, but to me it's just either way. Anakin was just created out of nothing, and I'm fine with these kids being created out of nothing. They're witches, and it's just stuff we've seen before, so that I don't really have an issue with. But let's see. Here we go. I'm hopefully this is all right. Comment. Derek Lewis says, "Am I pissed off?" Question mark. I mean, no, but this will split the fandom. You're going to lose the normies, and the normies, you lose the franchise. But like, what like I guess my issue is what is the key issue? Like what is the issue that's going to split the franchise? Like I don't believe that. I really don't because I think it's the diehard people, but the mainstream people, I don't think they're going to be like, "Oh my god, these two created a Force baby." They're not even going to remember that Palpatine did it. They're just going to be like, "Oh, that's something that happened in Star Wars." Like I don't think this is a key make or break. I think the key make or break is if the show overall is well written and people like the characters. Of course, you can take some big leaps, but I think this is just purely on the minds of Star Wars fans and junkies being like, "Oh, I hate this." Like I I don't think so. I don't see anything. The orgy ritual thing, I I I don't know. Like, I don't think it's a. I guess I get what you're insinuating as far as it being the group and everything, but I don't think it's like if it was an actual orgy. This is the allegory for an orgy, right? If we opened up this show and it just started with like 30 women purely nude getting it on, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I could see someone being like, "Hey, this is primarily a family-friendly franchise. There's, like I never think Star Wars has to get to that territory of dark or adulthood. So that's where I would go, oh, if it was an actual orgy, sure. But to me, like the Dathomir kids, like the Dathomir witches, have done the same thing in Star Wars. Like, how did they? I don't know what the differences of an orgy is of them chanting to them bringing back Darth Maul's like brother. Of them all standing together, their powers were like. Didn't they do that? Was Darth Maul's brother or just Darth Maul?
Savage Opress.
They brought him back, right? Yeah.
No, well, they brought back Maul, right? They gave him his legs and all that kind of shit.
Okay.
And then,
so to me, I don't think there's any difference of this is just okay. There's 12 people doing it opposed to 4 witches doing it, and they're all chanting and they're connected by green stuff and they're chanting and chanting. And the thing comes alive. Like I don't think it was. I think the same way like these Dathomir or these witches were almost an allegory for being a sexual orientation or being not just like a white straight male or anything. But I don't think they're so overt where I think that there's people that have a real issue with themselves because Star Wars has always been political. So I don't think it's anything to really crow about, in my opinion. So
what? But what are the parameters of normies? Just the GA? Is that what we're going at it here?
Yeah, I don't think like I don't. Yeah, I the guy you'd have to if Derek would say that, but I don't. Maybe, but I don't think. I don't think Ahsoka, there was anything in Ahsoka, same thing. I was like, oh, we lost them. Like this show, what they gave out the stats. Ahsoka did 14 million in 5 days, and this did 11. It is lower, but at the same time, no characters, no big stars, no air or anything like that. So I think it's pretty good. The whole thing will be though is if we get to meet Ahsoka 2, and if they're really low, like we talked about with Mando, where Mandalorian 3 started really low and it did start to climb. But yeah, I just don't think that it's like it's stuff that's happened in Star Wars. It's happened in Clone Wars. So to me, it's just and you can say if you don't like that, that's fine. That's okay. But I don't. The argument of oh man, this is something crazy and new. It's going to ruin Star Wars. I really don't think so. I think it's stuff we've seen before. So
it has been stuff we've seen before. It's been very much, I'd say, represented in many Star Wars games, especially the new like Jedi Survivor Fallen Order, right? That you really get to immerse it there. Of course, that's post Lucas era. That's post Lucas Arts. But even then, there's other games like Star Wars Forces of Corruption, Empire of War. You got Dathomirian magic going on in there. You got a whole bunch of things that have just been at play, and I feel like it's not anything new. Of course,
and
like you said,
and that's what I was going to ask because RJ thinks I see good to see in there. I want to like specifically. This is not an attack. I want you to say like I can see why it would divide the fans. Tell me, and I'm not going to say you're wrong because Derek said well I thought it would divide. For me, I don't think so. Like I don't think. Anything I've seen here, the gay stuff, no, I don't think that. Like, okay, yes, it could divide, but I mean, like, for me, of anything being wrong, okay, characters are gay, cool. Baby is created, cool. I guess there's an orgy, cool. There's allegories for racism and sexism and sexual orientation, cool. That's like all these things have been done. So that's where I just don't know where if it would divide the fandom, I just want to know, like, who's the fandom it's dividing? Is it already the people that are making the woke red eye thumbnails? Because they're already divided. I'm saying, like, it's odd because I feel like it would be division of, like, me and Taylor, who have very different views on Star Wars, but if we came here and both were, this is, he's one way and I'm the other, I don't think so. So I don't think it would divide any people that it haven't, So that's my thing. So yeah, RJ put that in the chat. Why do you think? Because I want to know. Because I like if people, and I also don't think it destroys Star Wars. Nothing destroys Star Wars. The thing that destroys Star Wars is bad content. Now, if you want to argue for bad writing and bad this and that, then sure, I'm open all day for that. Because I think Star Wars has had those issues. I think with Mandalorian and Boba Fett. I think just like the Marvel stuff where, with the kind of fatigue, I think it's just like a lot of bad projects that have happened. So, okay, RJ came back and says, I think it's mostly the stuff regarding the twins being created by the Force. Child born in the Force was meant to be something made Anakin special and unique now that you removed that. Okay, so from that perspective of Anakin's not special anymore. So I can't say people could be wrong. So that's one thing where I could say, okay, I can see a little bit. That doesn't affect me because I just feel like it's something that could happen. And I don't know if it's special because there's argument of if he's the chosen one, right? That's still debate all the time of if it's Luke and that. And I don't think there is a chosen one because the evil keeps on going. So to me, I guess it's not as big of a thing where it is a issue, but I can see why people might have an issue with that because I am someone that I love Luke Skywalker, favorite Jedi, and I feel like having Ahsoka, Ezra, all these Jedis around the same time as New Hope, I think that does lessen Luke Skywalker. So for me, I don't think it does I don't think it makes Anakin less special, but if someone were to feel that way, I understand, but at the same time, like I said, it is in the canon of people doing these things, right? I'd have to look at the whole chosen one kind of prophecy and like, does it list that it's a person born from non-childbirth, or is it a bunch of other things, right? Because even the books me and Taylor read, they list things, but I don't think they've ever fully given out the prophecy. So if there's not a line of prophecy saying this is the only person that will be born like not unnaturally, then you can kind of do, I think, whatever. So that's not one that would bug me. But I don't think, again, like I don't think the people that love Anakin are gonna love him any less because this isn't like a George move, So
I mean, let's see here. The prophecy was one of hundreds of obscure legends maintained by the Jedi Order. Though its origins remain unknown, it was thought to have been created by the earliest Jedi philosophers after the creation of the Galactic Republic, but before the Jedi assumed an active role in it. Now, I think.
So what does that pertain? None of the birth stuff pertains to Anakin, right? Specifically, that's something that happens, but you could say that multiple people doing things in the series are, they're special because of X, Y, and Z. So I guess if that's something you hold to your heart, then sure. But I just feel like there's multiple examples of a character doing something and then other people doing it, whether you like that or not, of course. But
so there's whether you see it detract or not, like. This I feel like is not a shared perspective, and I know you don't share it, Travis, because you stand on that pedestal.
Balance is all the good guys winning. That's my balance.
That's where you stand. Yeah, and so for me, I see it as okay. Anakin, he fulfilled that prophecy. He defeated the Sith. The Sith died with him
in a very backwards way. Come on now.
They retroactively, like Disney retroactively undid that. And I feel like that sequel trilogy undid that more than anything this episode would have done, touching upon Anakin being born of the Force and retroactively affecting him and his significance. And just one more thing too, the Jedi have no idea that these twins were made through the Force and through which...
Well, we don't know that yet, right? That could be a reason why they're there.
Because that's true. We don't know it yet. We don't know it yet.
Yeah. They ask where's the father, and here's one thing where that's where RJ, you kind of answer your question where you go plus they were like. You already answered, but plus they're redefining what the Force means. That doesn't mean anything. George Lucas redefined the Force meaning himself. In the original trilogy, it was something you could feel. In the prequel, it's a blood test. And to me, it's just like...
Got that in this episode, too.
Well, yeah, exactly, right? And it's just like, Taylor, can you tell me the definitive origin of God and Jesus? You can't, because everybody has like a different... Even if you don't believe in it, people have different versions,
don't know.
right?
I have no idea.
My point is you can admit that there's not one pure, this is the God, this is everyone's God, right? Everyone has a different God or what they look up to, or they don't look up to. So for me now, I've accepted that I don't like the midichlorians. That's the George method, and that's where it's like for me, it's already like we've been here before, and Star Wars was destroyed, and then they come back. And I see Derek in the chat. I don't think it will have a steep drop off. I think if it has a steep drop off, it's because people don't invest the show. I don't think the general audience is watching this being like, oh my God, they're redefining the Force. I don't think so. I think they're just wanting to be entertained. And that's a question of, I get people not being entertained by this episode because it could be looked at as dull. I enjoyed it, but for me, the Force being redefined doesn't matter because it is their interpretation. That's their culture. It's the same way we look at it, right? It's the same way people in our world look at religion. People can like, there are churches that come from the same Bible that some people are going to say, hey, if you have a kid at wedlock, you're going to hell, or that's completely fine. We have churches here everywhere, right? Where, hey, if you're gay or anything else, you're not accepted. And then we have a church downtown that literally has a rainbow flag, and not because it's June, it has it all the time. It says everyone's accepted to be the opposite of that, right? And that's the thing. And that to me is like the religion Force thing that just doesn't bug me, because like that's how they interpret it. There's no answer on what the Force still is, even though George kind of still said, like, to me it is like, it's unfortunately like a thing in your body count, like it's like it's like a strength or a testosterone. I don't like that. I still go with, hey, what is Star Wars, like what is the Force? To me, it's a feeling, something that you can tap in, and maybe some people are stronger with it than others. I don't like it being like a science test, but that's something George did, right? So I don't think this to me did anything but the threads and the methods of the twins. I don't think it did anything that it hasn't done before,
Yeah, I think like to touch upon the relationship factor between these two witches. I feel like you're probably getting a lot of hatred, obviously directed towards that, but I think you're getting a lot of people that, and I dare not speak for people. I'm just saying this based on my own observation, but I think people are feeling exhausted from just having it portrayed in not every, but a majority of medias and different IPs and everything like that. And so when it hits something that maybe they're big Star Wars fans, then all of a sudden it's just consistently in it's not consistently in Star Wars. We had one scene in Rise of Skywalker, and I think that's the only other time. And so yeah, and it was very brief. But then I think people, like this being the first real time in Star Wars that we're really kind of exploring that,
which they don't even kiss as well either.
They don't even kiss. No, they do it. I like caressing.
Yes.
But I think it's not Star Wars to blame. It's no one to blame or anything. But I think it's just being presented in all these different mediums, all on social media, everything like that. And so when it is like, oh, it's right here again in Star Wars, it's like, well, Star Wars isn't all the time always this. Star Wars is focusing on many different aspects and different relationships and dynamics and narratives. And so I think that, is that making sense? I don't want to offend anyone how I'm saying,
no,
but I think
I get what you mean, but at the same time, like that's where people I think kind of have to grow up, and it's like culture and art and film and TV and music, they all change with the times, right? Like that's the thing. It doesn't just say, well, Star Wars is always this. It's like, it's something that it can't, if you always wanted to be what it is, those movies are there, like they're not gone. They're not going back and editing things. And so if it really bugs you, but it's just like, they do these things now, the same reason why many actors of color would get passed over, because like, well, they can't lead a film, where nowadays that happens and people get more chances. So I get what you mean, but then at the same time, I think it's like the guy from the Eric Kripke, or however you say his last name, who did The Boys, where he said like, how do you feel about people getting offended by like the Homelander Trump comparisons? And it's like, then don't watch the show.
Well, Homelander supporters, right? They think he's the hero.
Well, yeah, and they're mad about that and stuff. And I agree with them. You just don't watch the show, and that's where it's. And same thing, like Derek, I see you in the chat. You're saying that they also dropped off Ahsoka. That's the thing where I still talk about the good and bad writing. What in Ahsoka? Ahsoka didn't do any big, heavy lore retooling. There was no, other sexual orientation, love interest in there, anything like that. So that's where, to me, it's just like that's the example right there of. You could, and there's many people I've talked to said, hey, I didn't like Ahsoka. I was bored by it, didn't like X, Y, and Z. I liked Ahsoka. I don't think it was the strongest, but I could see someone be like, yeah, it wasn't for me. But again, I still think it comes down to the writing and the characters and what people are in for, right? And we'll see. The true success of it will be if this doesn't get a season 2, then that's the clear message right there of, hey, it did drop off and it didn't do what they wanted to do. We never know what they do want to happen. But Phantom Juice saying, I'm genuinely confused why people don't like the show. Can someone explain to me? I've seen a lot of rants about the show. Very few made genuine attempt to honestly evaluate its merits. I think it's tough because you got to find the right circles. If you're just looking online, it is a general, like, okay, it starts off already female led and a female creator show. That is tough, and it is a tough thing because I don't want anybody that they don't like the show to feel like you don't like it because it's a female centric show. And I don't even think it is like female centric, like she is the main character, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's that way where it's like a coming age tale, this young lady. Like, I feel like with Soul and her and some other Jedi stuff, it's kind of pretty balanced. So for me, it's like it is tough where you walk a fine line where if you don't like it, you're going to be thrown in that category, which I don't think should be the case. So that's why you just have to find it. That's why, to me, stuff like, oh, it being like a 3 out of 10 on IMDb after, like, before the first episode even airs, you can't really judge it. So you just got to find your pockets. That's like, hey, join our Discord. We like to create those pockets and stuff like that. But I can see some things of people saying, hey, sometimes it looks good, but sometimes it looks cheaper, not that well shot. Okay, fine. If some people are not liking certain characters, that's always a general thing, right? If there's some people that don't like, we've talked about the tiptoeing of they haven't seen the Sith in a millennia, and then the Sith are here and they don't explain that, then yeah. So I can see there is, of course, things, but I think a lot of the things are turned into hyperbolic, and that's the problem of, for me, I said this last week where I didn't have any major issues with this episode or the episodes, but I didn't have major loves other than Soul and stuff. That's where I think for me, I'm fine if this Star Wars show just continues to be like good and I enjoy it. Where there is like, it has to be the best or has to be the worst, or it's saving Star Wars or it's destroying Star Wars, right? Like, I don't like, and who knows? Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe that this is destroying Star Wars and every Star Wars movie bombs and yet, and we can go back and say, oh yeah, Acolyte was that show, right? Because Last Jedi, you could maybe argue that too for some people that changed things. But to me, Last Jedi was way bigger than what this would be. And I think that's also because that's with the main characters. I think the characters meant more to people than the lore, and even then, like, it destroyed it, but like, it didn't destroy it, but like, okay, what was hang on, Last Jedi box office?
Over $1 billion.
No, I know that. It's 1.3 billion, right? And then
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker, I'm pretty sure that is $1 billion, so it made about 300 million left. So yeah, it's 1.07. So this is a point where, of course, I'm not saying, and I think the equivalent of this, people could tune out of the show. Maybe a season 2 they don't come back, but I still think that has to do with more of the quality of it, because still people said Last Jedi ruined Star Wars, but it's Rise of Skywalker is still $1 billion movie. Yes, it's the finale, all these main characters, but still, it wasn't like a Solo or anything, right? So it's just like, that's why I can't jump to the hyperbolic stuff until we see the results of it later on, because I don't know what this is going to do, because maybe it does, but then I just think, I don't really think it destroys Star Wars. I think it's just the Acolyte would fail, and then they would just move on. Like, they would just, okay, we're not going to do any Acolyte, like the Rian Johnson trilogy, right? Last Jedi, they were really happy with it. We're going to announce he's doing a trilogy. The movie is mixed, of course, successful but mixed. They've never done the trilogy, and they're never gonna, right? And maybe that's the way. I don't know if Acolyte's gonna end in a cliffhanger way. So for me, I still don't personally see anything. I see what upsets like the really either crazy people or the people that majority of them are not actually that upset. They just want to make a red eye thumbnail so they can get that 100K video, right? Like, tons of them don't even care that much. They just know how the system works. And YouTube is usually, or lots, YouTube and social media in general are things that are fueled by negativity, so that's easier to get the click. So we'll see, but I don't think, and that Derek says, here's the thing, Acolyte failing is going to hurt future projects. I only think it would hurt a certain era of the project. I think it's like what we've talked about is if it's this era, the Knights of the Old Republic, but I don't think if Acolyte were to do poorly, they would cancel the Mandalorian movie. I don't see that. Like, I feel like there's sections of Star Wars right now, and again, we'll see, because we've heard this before, like, oh, this isn't successful, and then, a season 2. And if a season 2 gets announced, then for me, it's like, well, they can't be that unhappy with it. And so I really don't know. I can't make those things. I don't think it is, in my opinion, hurting the brand as like a Sony Marvel is to me, where that's like the bottom of the bottom barrel comic movies that when they see that, I think there's still enough to enjoy in the show, especially for GA people that don't just like care that much about the lore. They just want to see lightsabers and characters they like, and that to me, I don't think hit this here. I have issues with this episode, but I don't know.
I lost my train of thought. I was there a little bit ago, but I'm not sure where to pick up on that. I think you basically hit it on the head though, and laid it out.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see how it goes. But for me, that was my issue. Was not with that. My issue was okay. So we'll get into the actual episode now, where it's a full flashback episode or whatever. Like I said, podcast episode. Really enjoyed that because I said I wish we'd get an episode just focused on May, and we didn't get that. But we're kind of getting this in a way where we're picking up with the girls. Like we talked about, these are a type of witches. They're not Dathomir witches, but they're a type of witches. They are, using the Force, but again, I don't know. It's much like the Dathomir witches, where sometimes they would talk about things and be like, that's kind of changing the Force method too. Like, I don't know. So for me, I'm just kind of fine with it now, but they are training these two students. You eventually learn that, the main character, or I'll have to find out their names when Taylor's going, but our main mother and then the other one with like the horns, they are a couple, and one gave birth to twins, one created them, and they said they didn't tell us how they did that, and I'm fine if they don't, because I feel like that was just them alluding to almost like you're using dark side power, right? It's the same way to me as like there's certain things you can't do if you're a light side Jedi. So to me, that's just like this version of you're using those type of dark forces. So I liked the setup. I liked the world. I liked meeting these witches. I liked the environment for the most part. I liked this weird type of like half ship area they were at, like I don't know what it was, the building they were at, but so I like seeing like another type of witch, because we've only seen them in Clone Wars, and obviously they're coming into Mando and Ahsoka and everything, but I enjoy seeing them so many years before everything. So
They introduced different witches in Tales of the Empire as well. In the episode where the Night
I
Sisters are
haven't watched it
destroyed
yet.
by
Yeah.
Grievous, they showcase other witch groups that follow different beliefs on Dathomir, which is kind of cool. But this group, though, I thought it was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed the group. I thought it was really unique, and again, they're tapping into this. I'm assuming dark side force, even though
Yeah.
I don't know if they were necessarily using it for dark side reasons, and I think that's one of the things that's interesting about witches. They can tap into this dark side of the Force and this power, but they're not consumed by it, right? They can just harness it. I had a train of thought. What was my thought?
Another train of thought gone from Taylor.
I know I'm losing my trains of thoughts. So all my trains of thoughts. Crud. Oh my god.
Crud.
Fuck,
So we were talking
that's
about the
gonna bother
twins.
me.
We are talking about the dark side with the witches. Anything in the witches culture you wanted to point out about them? There was no other children there. Are we gonna move on? I'll come back to you.
Just come back to me. I've lost it.
So then we got introduced early on that the Jedi are like skulking around, but they're not going to get into that. And then we see that there's May and oh god, I'm forgetting the other one's name. Oh, what's the
Oshi.
Oshi? I'll get it at one point. Even after this episode, I was like, okay, I'm gonna remember it. So we get to see that May is like very in tune with the powers, very in tune with everything, all gung ho to be this witch stuff, which is like I feel like. It's not until first 15 minutes of episodes they actually say the word witch, right? So at first it's like, what are they? Is it just like a Force users? Are they a type of Jedi? Who knows? Do you got it, Taylor?
I got it.
Okay,
Oh
so
my God.
we'll pick back up on the twins thing after, but Taylor gets his thoughts. He's there.
So the witches now, them obviously the Jedi are aware of them, aware of what they're doing, and they were kind of forced out into the situation. Now I think that the concept of how the Jedi just appeared there and like, oh, the Jedi don't abduct children, the Jedi don't take children or whatever, and the fact that they're here and their main issue is that these Force users are actually training children
Yes.
out, and they're not Jedi. I was eating all that up. Like, man, it's not showing. It shows maybe like what's the proper word? Like it shows like how the Jedi are not really afraid, but they're fearful of what this outcome could be. I think it shows that at the same time they're aware that this could lead to very dangerous things like Sith Lords and other things along those lines.
They want to control
So,
they want to control the narrative as far as when it comes to the Force. Like they want to be the guiding light to anybody with the Force, which I saw some pushback already, which I guess I kind of get to, where they are coming for these kids when they're older and they go after like Osha's going to be adopted after lots of trauma stuff. But at the same time, I guess the reason I'm okay with it is because this is hundreds of years late, like earlier. I don't know what their method is now. Like, when did it start from being like, oh, this is a certain age? Maybe, again, that's the thing when you're playing in this timeline. Maybe this point 8 was like acceptable or more acceptable, right? But now when you got to the Anakin route, maybe it wasn't. And I don't know if someone has the Jedi handbook that says, hey, from the old Republic, and maybe there is, but that's the tough thing because a lot of that stuff is not canon now, right? So it's like they can kind of make their own. So again, and I'm fine with, because I think some people might look at this and say, oh, it paints the Jedi in the bad light. Well, then you're just not watching the prequels correctly, because like that's all the prequels is painting the Jedi in a bad light, because like that's part of the reason why they lead to their downfall. All the, not too much in the original trilogy, there's a little bit, but then in the new trilogy, it is all about the past has to die. So it's like, this isn't a foreign concept of the Jedi got it wrong, and this idea of, I think there is some warrant to, like, I get their perspective. They're Jedi, they want to control the Force, and also it is a law. But at the same time, from the witch's perspective, it is kind of fucked up. These people can just show up on your doorstep and, you know, say, hey, you got to give us these kids because they might have the Force, you know, like that. That's what I like from both sides seeing it. So I don't mind when Jedis are made to look to be kind of dickish, because they multiple times are kind of very arrogant and just self-focused, right? Even if they're kind, like Soul's self-focused, he's still all about like, yeah, and you'll be a Jedi and I'll train you. It's not like he's like really emotional or taking account that what these people might feel of taking the kids or the kids feeling that. He's just all about, oh, you could be a Jedi, which I love that moment where they're arguing and he takes his saber out and they all think it's gonna be a fight and he gives the child the saber, which I think is a great like disarmer to show like, hey, I'm not using this as a weapon. So Soul continues to be a great character, but he still has those Jedi-isms of he still just wants to take these kids, right? And that's what the Jedis do. So
Yeah, exactly.
so yeah, we meet them, and May, she's very, like I said, in tune, wants to do this. Oh, she is very iffy about it, doesn't know what she wants to be, which doesn't really, I guess the other thing we see a couple times in this episode where May is doing great and Ochi's not, whether it's Ochi seeing it or other people like her own mother being like, you have to do better, Ochi. Like, I think it's that she is so tied to her sister that even if she is good at what she's doing because her sister's great, she's always in this huge shadow, you know, like never in the limelight. Not saying she wants to be like popular or anything. I just mean like it definitely feels like she has like second child syndrome, you know, where I don't want to, she even says in this episode, I don't want to always be attached to you or with you, which is not like when last 2 weeks, and there was nothing to give me that. I just thought that was the way it was going. I thought, okay, they were the best of friends, sisters, and then there was this thing that happened, and then May went missing. And that's why it kind of explains to me last week when they saw each other, it wasn't this big embrace or a big reunion, like, oh my God. And there's other stuff in the episode we're going to get to, but they weren't on like great terms near the end. They weren't like lovey-dovey. They weren't like literally the plan is, hey, screw up this Jedi interview. And Bang does it, and then what Ochi does, the exact opposite, and starts talking more about being a Jedi. So I was surprised, and I liked that wrinkle. There's more wrinkles to get into about them, but I liked that wrinkle of they weren't on the best terms. They weren't like the best sisters ever. They were much different. So now that makes sense of why, as grown-ups, they're not just itching to get back into each other's life, especially at least May, right? Because she could have, but she drove off last week, so...
Yeah. Well, I mean, and how do you, like, I was not expecting that line too when May storms into Oshi's accommodations, like, you know, you can't leave, I'm not going to let you. Like, what are you going to do to stop me? I'll kill you. I was like, holy fuck. That's a red flag. And I thought that was great, but
Did you?
I thought it was great. It was, and I like the illusions too of her just like trying to force choke the little butterfly insect too. Like, but I thought, okay, there's something else going on that is like something else afoot here, because even Madison detected this when May retreats from the room and everything's burning, and she's running through the caverns and catacombs down below. You hear the explosions, you hear like screams coming from up top, but you don't see it. It's like, okay, what's going on up there? And then she continues on, you catches up with May again, and Soul is just already here. And as you're running through afterwards, after May disappears and Soul has Oshi, you see the actress, I can't remember her name, but she's the head mother of the clan, and she's already laying on the ground dead, and you see bodies grouped together all lying down. I'm thinking, okay, this seems very suspicious, and maybe I'm overreading it, And maybe Disney is just going to leave it as that, and that they just did die in the explosion. Or maybe there is something going on here, because to me it feels like, and I doubt it, I doubt that the Jedi went in and actually did something, although that would be very dark, but it was just Soul, and maybe Soul has a darker side to him that we're not familiar with. I don't know. The alternative take on this is that we could see that there was some conflict that was forming between our witches here, and the dynamic of what to do with the children, if we should relinquish them or keep them. And so maybe that had a fallout here, and maybe just this fire kind of instigated it. Maybe the fire was not May's idea. Maybe it was, I can't remember the mother's name that carried her, but the Zabrak female, that she was very much resistant and opposing the Jedi, saying, let's kill these Jedi. They're not going to be missed. And so maybe she instigated something with May. And maybe after the fact, who knows, maybe that Zabrak woman, because I don't remember seeing her body on the ground unless I have to revisit that scene again. Maybe she helped connect May to this, the master, right? Like there's some interesting storylines here that are going to unwind that I'm excited for, but I don't feel like those witches all died from the fire up top. It seemed like something was fishy.
And I hope so, because for me, the idea of this fire just killing everybody and taking them out is just, that is one of the most lazy, piss poor writing of all time. And because I rewound, because I'm watching, and yeah, May steals the book. And so here's the thing, I will say I did not like the May turn. I thought this is where we needed the episode to be longer, because I get that she's disappointed, but to jump from literally executing her sister, I needed more backstory there. And that's somewhere I think that was poor writing. I needed more time, more backstory, more reasoning of just, she just wants to be a Jedi, so she wants to die. Like I just like, she wants her sister to die for that. Like, I wish there was way more throughout the years or months, or just more than just a few couple days we saw where, oh, they're, kind of not getting along and she wants to leave, so screw you, I'm gonna kill you. And to burn, like, that's a huge, like, to me, that's something where I feel that classic Disney, Star Wars, I hope it's not that May is going to turn good at the end, because to me, like, that's, like, think about, we're talking about Last Jedi a lot tonight, right? Everyone has always a big problem with the Luke whatever thing with Kylo, right? My Luke wouldn't do that yet. Doesn't matter. He pulls lightsaber, he's going to do it, and he at least, like, thinks about it, This, and granted, she's a little kid, but this is her own sister. She didn't think about it, and then I would have understood if she'd lock her in the room, was gonna burn her, and then thought against it. No, if Ochi didn't find a way out, she was just ready to just burn her sister to a crisp. So to me, that was a way, way too big a jump for me to buy that. I did not get there, and I hope now that May does just stay evil, because to me, that's such an evil act that you can't come back from that. So that scene happens, and then when everyone's dead, I was so confused. I'm like, did I miss something? Did I not understand? Because I heard the explosion. So I watched back and watched the whole thing. And that's where I'm like you, where this has to, and as I sit on more, this has to be something more, especially with, we saw the meditating Jedi last week, right? Where they talked about how he felt so kind of scarred from that day, right? And things that went down. To me, what have the Jedi done that would make it seem like you would be emotionally traumatized as a knight? Like, what happened from what our events we saw, Taylor? Is there anything? Because I wouldn't think so. If you were on a planet and a fire started and a bunch of people died, that's not on you, right?
I mean, he was a Padawan at the time. It was very traumatizing.
Well, I guess,
He
but
couldn't handle it.
for
No,
him to be in a self-exposed exile, there's something up.
Yeah, there is something up.
Or I hope, because if it is just they died in a fire and May accidentally killed them, that is something where, to me, that is worse than any forced babies, sexual orientation, whatever. Like, just like this fire caught like a breaker and it blew and it killed all these witches. Like, what?
I think that there is definitely the potential that, yeah, the Jedi are responsible for something like that. And I think that this could really pay off in the fact that if you were to retrospectively, after you get to that end, let's say it's the penultimate episode, as you'd say, and you get to the reveal that, oh my god, it was these 4 Jedi that went through that temple, because Soul was there mighty quick, and they just cut the witches down to try and get the kids out of there, and they did it on their own accord. Now, if you have that unfold, and then you can go back and watch the beginning first few episodes, and it fills in the gaps, and you just it satisfies that rewatch, right? And you can
Mhm.
see how they're acting and how they're responding, like Indara, who's responding to May in that fight sequence. It'll change that interaction now, and I think that there's a lot of potential here for this in retrospect. So I do hope, as much as I hate the idea of Jedi going in there and killing it, it would really be a twist on Jedi Master Soul's character.
Yeah, that to me, that's gonna really come down to execution, because that to me is more, if people are pushing back the whole, oh, the Jedi coming in and taking these kids away from the community, that I can believe. If these four just decide, hey, it's best for us to slaughter all these witches, I'm gonna need to see more. Or if it is just, yeah, they decide to, then these Jedi are, they are bad, they are, and that's fine. Like, you could argue that, oh, shouldn't it be a Sith action? But I'm sure the Jedi have done many questionable things, thinking it was the right thing, right? And who knows? Maybe they'll even do a thing where they show that the witches made the move first, like there was a fight or a struggle, and the Jedi's got the upper hand. But I do think they got a kind of tightrope walk there, because I think that is odd for a bunch of Jedi to just go in there and execute people, unless you are condemning them, right? And I guess, like you said, you could be, because then that makes, when you're watching the show over again, that makes May like the protagonist in a sense, right? But then it's strange because she's also a protagonist that tried to burn her sister alive. So that's where it's like, it's, I feel, and I am worried, I feel that there's a few things that could make the result of this messy. And that's where I think, I feel like I want it to be something really well put together, but already with May trying to burn her sister and then the Jedi also being like potential killers, I think there's lots of room for error there, where I think you could go back and watch some things, but I don't know. It's tough, but I'm always, like I said before, for me, I have to see the episode. I can't fully judge. I have to see the season, because we've talked about this before on newscasts or anything. I've heard many things and go, oh, that's going to be great, and it sucked. And then I've seen many things where like, oh, that sounds awful, and then it's great, right? So I'll wait to see how it goes. It's all about the execution, but I do think there's something there. It's just a question of, the same way Luke felt off, like he felt regret for the thing that happened to Kylo. At the end of the day, he still decided he was not going to kill Kylo Ren, right? He pulled the lightsaber, or Ben Solo, but then he was going to put it away. But he still feels regret. So it's the same thing of like, it could be a Jedi thing that, hey, the witches started this fight and they did kill them all, and that's why they regret it, right? Of like, we could have handled that better. We should have found a way. So I think that would be the route to go, because I think if they just execute them, that like, don't you think that could potentially like, it's like you have these Jedi that have executed all these people, then gone back to just being Jedi. I think it's very tough. Like that to me feels like they're all a bunch of Anakin Skywalkers than of him going and killing all the Sand people, which to me is more like justified. Like, not that he should have done that, but it's more justified because Anakin Skywalker is a very emotional person. These people destroyed his mother. He's going to destroy them all, you know? And that's where it's like with these, them Jedi just killing them for power, I guess that could be another wrinkle of them, how lost they were, but I do think that crosses a few lines. So I'm kind of torn on it. Where do you feel about if that is the route they go, that the Jedi were the instigators and they just want to take out this kind of witch battalion?
I mean, they just send the Wookiee in there and just like decimate them all.
Yeah.
I think that it's for the Jedi to go in there and just start massacring them. I don't necessarily see that. I see it as that self-defense. I do think the Jedi are much more responsible than they're letting on, as we've already
Yes.
discussed, and I do think that maybe it is an act of self-defense.
That gone
But
too far.
that
right?
went too far. I
Yeah.
mean, Indara was apprehensive because Soul pulled his lightsaber out, but obviously it was to show Oshi just that there was an alternative path, and everything about that felt very Jedi-like and peaceful. But I do think that you could have had one of these witches cast out a spell or do something to instigate the fight.
Well, we could get
Because
that flashback though, right?
yeah, I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
I think that the Jedi you see now are very different from the Jedi you see there. And Dara even feels very different, even though we had her just briefly in that first episode, and then we have her in this flashback. She feels different in between those two different scenarios. Obviously, that one Jedi Padawan who became doing the Barash vow or whatever that was called. He's obviously very, very different. Master Soul is exceptionally different, and the Wookiee. I mean, I can't say he's just living like a hermit. And
He's a
again, a
clean
weird
slate right now.
cliffhanger. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a clean slate. I didn't do anything wrong.
And even this episode, like he just sniffed out the kids and was like, "Yeah, they're over there." So I'm interested. But yeah, we got on that cliffhanger. I imagine next week we're getting that thing where they go and like they kill all the Jedi, right? I'm guessing.
Kill all the Jedi.
Well, that scene where we've seen the trailers where they're in the field and the Sith is there, this potential Sith.
You think that's next week?
I feel like because it's like it's wooded area, right? And then like they're going to Chewbacca, and man, like this, I always love people like this. Eddie, keep defending garbage, and they'll keep making it. I think you have to go back to multiple minutes where I have said that there was poor writing in this episode. Taylor had questioned things. It's not a defense. I don't need to defend them because it's not my money. I just talk about like what I feel on here, my personal feelings, Eddie. You know, it's all good though. I this episode must have really hurt you for some reason. I don't know. One of the three reasons, and this is what I always don't get. I'm guessing, Eddie.
Oh,
Eddie, that you don't enjoy the show and what Disney's making. Why? Not you personally. Okay, that's fine, Eddie.
Okay.
You're lucky because goes not just for Eddie. This goes for anybody that's like trolls in chats. I never understand if there's a show you're not watching, why you're in a chat of it and wasting your free time. Like, don't do that, you know. And that's the thing where and who knows? I can't say defending garbage because like I don't think everybody that likes the show to me is like blind to it. Of course, there's people that overly hate stuff and there's people that overly love stuff, but I think there's generally people out here like if you ask me right now, do I like the show? I say yes. But is it the greatest thing? No. Is it like a Shogun or Baby Reindeer? No. Like it's just like, okay, so far it's a decent show right now. And we'll see. But Taylor, oh gosh, where were we going right now? We were talking about
Where are we going?
We were talking about the Jedi. We're talking about Soul. Oh no, Chewbacca. Not Chewbacca. Whoever this whatever thing is, right?
Yeah.
That's here. Eddie asks us: at the end of the day, do you want Star Wars to go in this direction? Define this direction, because like for me, yes, because I want to explore more of the past. So to me, it doesn't matter if you're the present, the past, the future. Bad writing can be bad writing. So for me, there's nothing in here that I didn't see where like, oh, you can't explore that. That's not for like, I don't like there's nothing. It's all about the execution. I think there could be better writing in the show, but I don't think for me there's nothing where like what's the direction? Is it like having more gay couples? Sure, that doesn't bother me. Is it more of the playing with the Force? They've done that before, and sometimes it sucks. But like that's like midichlorians fucking suck. George Lucas created Star Wars, and he gave me that. But guess what? Like I have to deal with it. Midichlorians are here to stay. George is a creator, and now they're in fucking video games and comic books all the time. So I just gotta deal with it, right? As far as like the Jedi being evil, that I have to see, right? Because it's like I gotta see execution. Because if it's like, yeah, these Jedi kill a bunch of people and nothing really happens. That is something where I go, that's not great, because you and I have talked about this in wavelengths. The fact that Anakin killed those sand people and Yoda knew and nothing ever happened, what fucking idiots. So you know what? Maybe I've answered that question again. The Jedi are just fucking idiots in this era because they're like, hey, so what happened on that planet? Oh, we just fucking assassinate all those witches. They're like, yeah, bring it in, man. Like you got a new apprentice. Like that's what I mean. And maybe that's the case. It might not be something I enjoy, but so for me, it's like, is there any red line for you? Red line. I think I said last week of like, if they woke up and it was like in George's head, he's like, oh, I had this. To me, it's just like, it's tough because
The chosen one.
I have many red lines, right? And I don't think there's one big red line. The one big red line is, okay, here's the biggest red line. Jack Black and Liz on that fucking Star Wars episode. There's the biggest red line ever. Fucking Mandalorian season 3. But no, for me, it's mini ones of like, I like Luke Skywalker being the only Jedi in the Dark Ages era. And guess what? That's not the thing anymore. There's fucking 18 million Jedis bouncing around. But it's not enough for me to go, oh, I'm done with Star Wars. I go, oh, that sucks. And I don't enjoy that aspect of it. I think the red line is literally just that and that's fine if you do, but I have to dislike the writing, the acting, the direction, and all the effects are looking bad. Like, for me, like it has happened for stuff. Like I used to be a huge wrestling fan. Like, or no, let me take that back. I'll go on a quick tangent here. I loved WWE my whole life, and then around I can't remember what it was. I think it was 2017, 2018. It just got to a point where everything was so bad. I did stop watching for about almost half a decade, and now I'm back because I enjoy what they're doing with it now. And that's why I always say to everybody, just take a break. Just don't watch the stuff, and then if something's good or you hear it's good or up your alley, then come back to it. So for me, I can't say Lizzo nearly broke me. That's how it was for Jack Black. So for me, the red line is just everything overall bad because there's certain storyline stuff that sucks a bunch already in Star Wars. Midichlorians, the fucking sequel trilogy, I still like it overall, but The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, all those changes, holy fuck. The Knights of Ren, there's stuff in the original trilogy that like is like, why does like a red line? Why Taylor? We've talked about this for years. We've talked about this till we're 80 years old. Why does Vader get to go to space heaven? This man killed children. He gets to be a ghost that Luke Skywalker talks to? No. And here's my last red line too. Fucking George Lucas and all these stupid special editions changing, McClunky, the stupid dancers in Jabba Hutt. They took out Yub Nub. They took out Yub Nub in the new fucking version. I'm happy because I have a DVD. I have the last DVD print of the original versions. But that's what I mean. These things happen and I go, okay, that's what's going to happen here. So you guys talk about why 30-minute episode. I think we've always had that complaint about wouldn't it be great if it was longer, but at the same point, and I'll let you answer that, Taylor. For me, it's like when we just reviewed X-Men and those were 30-minute episodes and great. Now I don't think it's down the runtime. I think it is down to the pacing and the writer. So I think it would be better if it was longer, but at the same time, then they should adapt. How are you feeling right now with the 30-minute episodes and stuff?
Yub nub. I hear you, Derek.
Oh yeah,
it's his childhood.
I get it. And the song sucks now. That's in the new special editions. It sucks. That's there. And then you got stupid young Hayden Christensen there smiling. Luke doesn't know what this guy is. He's never seen him in his life.
So he also mentioned too, like it's no Shogun. I totally agree. Shogun is a whole tier of its own. Like,
it's no Andor even, right? It's no Andor.
It's no Andor. Yeah. Absolutely not. And I think that goes to show the writing. For me, this does feel very prequel-y, and it feels very prequel-esque in terms of its writing and the dynamic. But, sorry, so how do I feel about the 30-minute episodes? Yeah. I think that it's not ideal. I think that this show should be... It should be a
45 at least every time. And
45 at least.
Without credits as well, too. None of this bullshit of like the 8-minute credits or anything.
Some of my favorite shows, again, like Game of Thrones, Yellowstone,
The Boys are full hour episodes.
The Boys, like these are really well reviewed shows, and they really dive into great narratives and dynamics with our characters and their relationships, and that's because they have the time to really channel into this information and portray these stories to us. Where you have these quick, concise episodes, I feel like it definitely withdraws a little bit from the story, and it's a con for me depending on the characters. Now we've had Mando season 1. I think that worked. It was a variety. Some were 40 minutes, some were down to like 20, which that really sucked, but it was back and forth. And that was at the time when each episode just feels like an adventure and we're just going for a ride.
That worked for that show. It worked
had, like,
for that
show.
Side quest action.
Absolutely.
Going on. Yeah.
But here it's not the case. I feel like here we have a pre-planned arc where we're going to be focusing on this character's journey and conflicting with a member of their past and the Jedi Order and how that is all intermingled together. And I feel like, okay, this needs to have the time to really just kind of let it simmer a bit and really kind of explore this narrative. And I feel like we're not necessarily going to get that. We're 3 episodes in, and this is an 8-episode season. Is that correct? Or is it 6 episodes?
I think it's 8.
Not 6. It's 8.
No,
I
think it's 8. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 8 episodes, and I feel like, man, we're halfway, 50% next week already, and while we're definitely getting through all the past stuff and getting towards that setup, I do feel like something is not necessarily there yet. And even Andor was those were They felt like longer episodes, but
I
some were
think they
still pretty
are.
short, right?
But I, I don't know what I have to look because it's been 2 years. I think they felt a bit longer, but I also think
It was a
like when we,
very long season, right?
yeah, I think one we didn't also mention to me is something like Obi-Wan, where we want it to be longer, but at the same time, it's also just the stuff in the episode. There's things that just didn't need to be in there, and that's where it's like for the length that you need to use it, put the vital stuff. I'm not saying anything that in these 3 episodes haven't happened that's vital, but again, I've said before, like character size and everything, they got to be careful in what they do. I think this flashback episode is vital, but we're gonna take another ad break because we're gonna answer this question that Eddie posed of what if the current stuff has to fail for Star Wars to get good again. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So to recontextualize that, what if the current stuff has to fail to make Star Wars good again? That to me, it's too subjective. It's because for me, let's see, most Andor episodes were an hour long. Thank you, Derek. So there you go. And to me, that makes sense because not just quality, because again, there's great quality stuff that is half an hour, but I don't think Andor was just 2 years ago, and people hail that as some people put that as like the best Star Wars stuff ever. So that's where it's tough for me to be like, hey, if everything since like Rise of Skywalker fucking sucked, like the same year we got Rise of Skywalker, you got Mandalorian season 1 and then Mandalorian season 2, which people loved even more, right? And same thing now. So for me, I don't think it's like it's just more like, I don't want to say it's a luck based thing, but there is a point to it because 2 years ago we got Andor and that was great, and I don't think anyone would have been like, oh man, do we need Andor to fail so we can change it? Because what if that was the case? And obviously they've already done season 2, right? But what if there was a case where, yeah, Acolyte sucked, so we're gonna not do Andor season 2 either, we're gonna stop doing everything, and you go, oh, but I really love Andor. So that's where I don't think it's like it's a case by case basis and not a whole thing. Not one. I don't think it failing is gonna make all the other projects good. I get that sentiment of, oh, if they're not supported, if they're reviewing poorly, it will turn around. But at the same time, this is where I think people that hurt the brand a lot. Because even let's say it was 70%, let's say it's all turned, right? And let's say there was 30% of Star Wars fans that are positive about Star Wars overall. And then you have that 75% or the 70%. The problem is there's at least 35 that percent that even if they generally don't like the episodes, they talk about things being woke, they talk about female led, they talk about they're doing red eye thumbnails and stuff like that. So right away, the negative base, it just gets looked at as kind of idiotic and they won't take it seriously. So it's like if it was a bunch of well-mannered people just tuning out and saying, I don't like this isn't great Star Wars, but when everything is hyperbolic, when everything, this is destroyed Star Wars, this is the worst thing on TV, that's where they just drown that out. And I don't think they'll turn away. I think it all comes down to numbers then. If people are watching it, even if the people that hate the show watch it, then they're happy to do it, And that's where I think with it not being and I think that's the thing with Marvel, there is, of course, that crowd, they'll go woke, go broke, But I don't think it's as big as Star Wars yet. I think with Marvel, there's just a genuine, they can feel the fan base has been let down by the products as of late, and we got to make a change, and that's what Feige's doing. With Star Wars, it's so tough to conflate the who's actually disappointed and who's just decided they're going to be mad no matter what. Because again, like we talk about, it's an elephant in the room. This fucking show had the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes like 30% before it had even aired. Okay, I'm sure a couple of those saw a screener at the theaters. I'm sure a couple of those are critics that got a copy. But like thousands of reviews of just giving it a 1 out of whatever before it's aired, that's where right away Lucasfilm will go look at that and go like, oh, it's just a bunch of haters, like people that are irrational. So we can't really judge it. Let's see who watches it, So that thing for me is like there's too much conflation there between people that genuinely are disappointed to people that are just trying to get clicks, or they're kind of basement dweller type of people that just like, I don't know, go out and get some sun. But I'm not sure, Taylor. Do you have anything? Do you think like Star Wars has to fail for them to turn around, or do you think it's like me where it's just kind of we're just in a case by case basis now where like I don't know if you can go on a run where everything Star Wars is going to be great again, because like I don't know if that ever happened. Even back in the 80s, Return of the Jedi was hailed as like this like, oh, that was the lesser of the three, and hailed it's not a disappointment, but just like, oh, it's clearly down there. So I don't think there's, other than Lord of the Rings, any franchise that had like a fucking perfect run,
Yeah, no, you make a good point, and for the idea that this needs to fail to just be successful again, I don't think we live in an age for that anymore. I think the age that we live in is shareholders and results and that sort of stuff. I think you, you're dealing with a lot of fans, and a lot of fans that are passionate, angry, so forth about these IPs. And you have to understand too, it's not the fans that are necessarily calling the shots. And fans can have impact for sure. They can do a survey, they can submit their feedback, whatever. But I think you need to understand that unless you have someone who is a fan and is really batting for the fans in that high ranking position at these companies, you're not going to be necessarily getting the stuff that you want, because you're going to be getting a group of people in business suits looking how to milk something, how to make money. They don't care. They're not going home and binge watching all the Star Wars movies, all the Jurassic Park movies. They don't care. They want someone to be hired, write them a story, and then they don't even want to read the script probably. And again, I'm not saying that this is fact. I think most of them don't even care to read the script. But I think they want to see just like bullet notes, bullet points on a projector. They want to hear people's projections and see statistics, and then see the statistics based on the past, and just see, okay, what are you guys guaranteeing here for results and for income, for earnings in this fourth quarter? And that's what they're gonna be like. Okay, here's your check for $500,000. There you go. Make your project, and I want to guarantee my revenue in return.
And that's what we talked about too. Whatever people want to say, if you look at the Star Wars movies and why Kathy wasn't gone or anything like that, they made 4 of them, and 3 of them made over $1 billion. That's a pretty good track record. Whatever you feel those movies, and when like you're talking about, when you're just looking at statistics, why would you get rid of that person that has helped produce 3? And the first movie made $2 billion. So really, you could say, oh, Solo not making $1 billion, Force Awakens like made up for it because it made $2 billion. So it's like, between 4 movies, you made $4 billion. So that's where it's like, that's why I always tell people, the only way you can change, and that's why even wrestling, that happened, other companies started, is you just don't got to watch. You don't tweet about it. You don't talk about it. It's no longer a thing anymore for you, because it doesn't matter if you're hate watching, you're a number. You go that statistic of, well, people are watching. And Eddie, I get it when you say the woke thing is in case of more about them not hiring the best writers, directors for some, but you can search YouTube and see how many fucking things are just woke, and it's Daisy Ridley on a male's body, or it's Kathleen Kennedy with the fucking red eyes. So for every person that is trying to be like, I just want the best writers, that is true, and I agree with that, but there is some person like, oh my God, they did this, the Force is female, that da-da-da. So that's where it's just like, I can't get on board, because in those are the people that really are, to me, I don't know, that's up to you. I think Sony Marvel is awful. I've never, not once, logged on to Rotten Tomatoes before I saw the movie and gave it a 1 out of 10. And that's where I believe the people, when it's like on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score, bringing it down to like a Rotten, those aren't the, well, we just want good writers. No, like those people will just tune out and stop watching. Like, man, this sucks and it's disappointing. Those people that are creating the narrative are the more, go woke, get broke crowd. And when something fails, oh, look, we told you. But then when something does really well, oh, they're quiet about that, right? So who knows? So I don't know. We covered the Jedi. Yeah, we covered poor Osha. She had the Jedi handbook look like that got burned and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we didn't cover as far as Jedi. Yeah. Or sorry, all the witches are dead. I really like, what was that character's name? Yeah, so she was played by Jodie Turner-Smith, who I guess I've heard great things about, but haven't seen her in anything. She played Mother Anisa. I would have liked the other mother to get a few more, again, talking about like screen time and runtime, a few more moments, because it felt like she's like, oh, I gave birth to them. But it didn't really feel like that. It felt like she was the stepmother in this situation. Like they were so close with the other mother. So again, that's where I would have loved more connection with that other mother. Even, God, what is, Oshi, right? Oshi. It felt like she did not care about that other mother at all. Like, it felt like they had zero connection. So that's something where I go, yeah, I could have used a bit more on that. The Jedi Presidents were all good again. Soul delivers. I think he's doing really well. But, yeah, anything else specifically that we haven't touched upon yet? And then I have a theory I'm going to hit you with, but
Well, I like theories.
yeah.
We haven't touched upon.
What is this? I gotta go, Eddie. What does this mean? People you don't like
I
are
don't. I
right
was
about some
wondering.
things. Yes, that is true. That's the most like that's true. But like the idea of when you're saying, "Oh, it's that's not what I was going against." You said earlier that the woke thing is is in the case of the best writers, the best directors. I'm saying that can be true, but the same thing as a reverse you is the sense of that's not all of them, you know. And like, yeah, there's tons of people I don't like that are going to make points that I agree with, you know? So that doesn't really make much sense. That's just like a general, like, oh, some movies are good, some movies are bad. I would hope so. Yes. Yes.
Derek, I just a comment here. I think one of the mothers is the Sith figure in the
That's
show.
what I was going to say.
I don't know if necessarily I'd say the master, but I think you have a chance of seeing the woman that carried them and gave birth to the twins. Again, I have to go back and visit that scene when they were all dead on the ground. I don't remember seeing her body there, but I do feel like we could see that actress, Zabrak, come back, and maybe she helped May, and maybe she was like, May, I got a guy that I know, and he's gonna take you away, and he's gonna
Darth
train
Maul.
you. Yeah, Darth Maul. So yeah, that's what I feel.
I think it's the main mother. I really do. So
Mama, you think she's alive?
well, her name's Mother Nisa. I'm not going to call her Mama.
Mama, they call her in the show.
I've never called my mom Mama, but that's fine if you do. So for me, I'd have to look back, and maybe that was a shot, but I swear in the trailer we saw that shot of, and I don't know, we saw a shot of somebody's eyes going black. Now, it could have been this exact shot from
That
this
was
episode.
the Padawan.
What?
Being,
But
like,
was that
taken
the one in the
over.
trailers that they were showing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought it was somewhere else. I just thought that that could make sense as far as it has. I feel like it has to be one of them, right? The other theory I saw people throwing around last week that was the fucking bartender, and I was like, no fucking way. I can see there's something where I would not want that because I like the bartender as like this kind of fun, shady comedic guy. If he's some like Sith in disguise that's like playing a character, I'm like, oh no, I really don't want that. So I think that it's gonna be the main. Yeah, it's gonna be Mama, and just because she's a bigger actress than a lot of the other ones on IMDb, she's also listed for 6 episodes. So I think there's a thread right there. And after this episode of her performance, I really enjoyed it. So I would like to see more of that. So, and especially because they did the whole. Who, Taylor, did they say that was an inspiration for the villain?
Oh, wasn't it Darth Treya you were talking
Yeah,
about?
and Kira, right? And when you meet Kira at first, seems like a nice, lovely Jedi that's just going to help you out, right? This mother, she is like, she is not as strong as the witches. I mean, as far as strong-willed that the kids have to do this. She literally goes to the girl saying, "Oh, or that Osha, do you want to be a Jedi? Whatever your life, that thread you have to pull, you have to do it." She's almost overly understanding that. I think in the moment she genuinely felt that way. But imagine if Taylor, you were like your kid for some reason was like Matilda. They want to go off, and you're like, "Okay, kid, you go with these people, go live your dream." And they get little Satine in their car, they pack her away, and they drive away. And then those people decide to kill you. You'd be like, "I was completely wrong about my feelings on letting these people watch my daughter." That's how I could feel how she feels. Is I was so fine with, or I was accepted. My daughter wants to do this, wants to be a Jedi. I'm not going to push her to go my way. Go live your life. Even there's a great scene where she says, "I'm never going to see you again," and they hug and she kisses her and she's crying, not like a super sad, but just like a tear falling. Jodie Turner-Smith, like I said, I'm going to go watch more stuff because I thought she was great. But I think there's a great story there of she's willing to let the Jedi teach her daughter, and if they for some reason turn on her or people, man, you would definitely feel like you misread that situation. So I'm saying it's going to be her, and I'm actually kind of hoping it's going to be her. So that's my pick right now. That's my prediction.
That would be pretty. I mean, the motivations are definitely clear, so I think you
Yes.
guys got some justification there. There's a few other more things in the trailer. I feel like these 3 episodes have really taken off most of the scenes that we've seen in these 2
Which is
trailers
good.
so far, which is very
And
good.
that's why I think next week we're getting those Jedi getting force pushed and killed because
might get it. I mean, there's a scene too on that planet where the Master pops up and force pushes all the Jedi. May is pulling out her throwing knife and is like about to kill that young, I think Daphne Keene's character, and there's like a knife to her
Oh,
throat.
okay.
That's the exact same backdrop and setting as when the Master attacks all of them. So
Yeah, and again, I'm thinking that's the Wookiees' home because it's wooded, it's shadowed, so it's gonna be they're gonna get the Wookiees home in the morning, and then nighttime's gonna go down, and then even though that's a lot of Jedi there, so that's my only thing of why are all these Jedi at that Wookiees planet, but I don't know.
well, I mean, here I'm gonna share a screen here because now I'm kind of curious.
It's a dick pic.
So I mean, look, yeah, I mean, look at how many Jedi we got here. Is this a flashback? Is that supposed to be young Oshi there as a
Let's take a
Padawan?
look here.
I mean, it's definitely
That mother,
Well,
I think that's Soul front, but man, that motherfucker looks like Qui-Gon Jinn up there. You know,
does.
like because
He
he would
does.
always have his like cape like that. Yeah, like it could be, I guess, young Oshi up there. So there could be. So do you think next week? Because this episode ended with us on young May looking at the tree. Do you think next week is another flashback episode at all, or do you think it's going to be fully back to present day,
I think we'll get another flashback. And I say that again. We got a ship
like
chase
a full
here.
episode mix, or just?
I think it'll be a mix.
Okay.
We got a ship chase sequence here too that we got to deal with, but then also there was a scene here that I don't remember seeing in this episode. Just bear
Also,
with me.
I do like last week we were talking about why May didn't have a lightsaber or anything like that, which is great because she wasn't trained to be like a Jedi or Sith as of right now. She was just somebody that had the Force, right? So
Yes.
I like that's a good explanation right now. And again, we still don't know why she's like reaching for the lightsaber, but I am ready to see that Oshi May fight pop off. So
Was this scene here in the episode? I can't remember where she's
I think
running
s-
through the fire. Because this is different, right?
I can't remember her running through the fire.
Because all we
so-
saw was young May popping up at the tree, and I'm thinking maybe this is another flashback showing May on her escape, right?
You do have to remember though. Last week, remember we got to see young May in Oshi's mind, so there could be some
right.
dream
That
sequence
could
shit
be the
going
dream
on here,
sequence.
right?
Yeah.
Which the same way Derek brought up, which I've seen some people throw out that put out that theory before of like the Tyler Durden like is May or the things in her mind like are they one? I don't know. I wouldn't say no because they did say like, hey, Knights of Old Republic, like they're like some inspirations are there, and that to me would be a very kind of Darth Revan thing to do, right? Of you think your sister's alive or something like that, but it's you force projecting it. I don't think they'll go that route, but I'm not completely writing off that she's has some sort of split personality or something like that. So
Yeah, that's possible.
John Blanchard says, or Blanchard, sorry, says, could a Darth character be using the twins to get a Jedi? I don't know if they need to use them because right now
They've already popped two Jedi.
yeah,
at this
May's
point.
getting a Jedi, right? And she's about to get that Wookiee's going down. I'm telling you, the Wookiee's done.
The Wookiee's done.
Yeah, Soul, he might last for the season, but maybe he won't. Who knows? Because he probably he had to go to Squid Game season 2. So, I think it is just like, I don't think they're using but I guess. Because I guess maybe you could just be using Oshi to like get them in a certain position. So maybe, but again, I think it's just if it's a dark character, it is that one we've met, right? I don't think there's like another character on top of that. I think it's whatever they're gonna name that. So let's see here. Anything else? And same thing with chat. Anybody? We're rounding down. So if there's any questions, theories, anything, throw them out now before we come down to the end here. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, we ended on May. She was looking mad. She survived that big fall, which I was kind of surprised Soul didn't try to just use his force to catch them. He decided to go the route of using his hands, which I feel like is a Jedi.
Well, I was telling Madison like the way he was holding on to Oshi, you'd think he was holding on to like two full-grown men or something.
he was
like,
sweating.
he was like, yeah, I can't pull you up. You're too heavy.
Soul's going to spend a bit more time in the training facilities because imagine if he just dropped her and that would be it. But yeah, so we'll have to see what happens there. And again, we'll have to see if there's something suspicious with him. I guess that's why I'm still enjoying the show because as of right now, I got a lot of questions and I'm excited to have them answered. Now, that's what it comes down to is how do they answer them and how they do them, right? Because for me, that canon stuff, everything we talked about, like why some people might not like it, that stuff is not affecting me the same way. And if it is for us or anything like, or it's for you or anybody, different strokes for different folks, right? That's everybody. But for me, I'm still intrigued by the mystery, and I like that we have multiple mysteries. What did happen to all these witches? Who is the dark character? How are these twins going to come together? What is some of the fault that happened with Ochia's training? So there's like 3 to 4 things already where it's like, okay, where are we going? And I'm excited to see what happens. So Derek says, why does the show look weird? Looks like the budget similar to House of Dragon, but it feels like the show that would fall Arrow on CW. I've seen the CW comparisons. I don't think it's as bad as that. As somebody that watched Arrow and The Flash, I think there are times I definitely granted, yeah, I could see it, but I think overall it still looks like a higher production budget than what the CW does. So, and with the budget, I really don't know how those budgets works because we've talked about it before. Like something Secret Invasion was like 160, and we're like, where does that money go? At least with that, we're like, well, Sam Jackson's in the show, so maybe he got like 150. But like with these, like, there's not any huge actors, actresses in here, but I'm not sure if it's overspending on shooting. I'm not sure if it's rewrite. So I will say that there's some. I think even last week we had some shots that were cool, but I do think overall it's not like Andor. It's not like a beautiful looking show, right? And I think
Yeah.
both Mando and Obi-Wan have the same thing where they have moments that look great, but then overall the show can look cheap. So I think that's just a tough thing with the Star Wars show of just like the rate that they're. I don't know, because this one took a while. I really don't know. And maybe it could just be that, and I'm not trying to like, because I don't want to go after the kid actors. I don't want to have to go to the crew, but it could just be that, hey, the team or person they have behind the sticks is just like, it's just not the greatest, or they don't got the greatest vision for what they want to look like, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. How are you feeling with the look of the show right now?
I mean, I can definitely see that there's something questionable going on. It when you look at those other shows, like House of Dragon and Shogun and whatnot, like the difference is, I'd say, night and day. So yeah,
But
I
also
don't
House
know.
of Dragon, though, again, those are lots of like physical sets, and even then, I'm rewatching House of Dragon. There's time that dragon looks fucking fake as shit. Like there's times where the
It's true,
dragon,
but
yeah.
I think that you're also dealing with an aesthetic that they're trying to match. And while the prequels were
Yeah.
heavily CGI, they were
Oh,
very
yeah.
bright and vibrant. And this feels like it's bright and vibrant, but it's been simmered down a little bit with this dark. I don't want to say a filter, but they're darkening it. They've taken that bright vibrancy that is the prequels, and they're like desaturating it and trying to make it a little bit more darker. So I think that maybe they're just trying to capitalize and emphasize on something that maybe that we're familiar with. But it does that vibrancy, that CGI-esque, it does feel very CW. And it's just one of those things that blows my mind where you look at CGI from what, like 10, 15 years ago. No, not even, like early 2000s with Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like, what the fuck? Like CGI
Deadlines, man.
now.
That's what happened. These people are like put under, because many FX people talk about, they're just put under scrutiny of getting lack of time, and also this is a big thing with Marvel stuff is like, and I'm sure with the Star Wars, and hopefully at the time with DC, is like the changing of stuff too, right? You got a small amount of time, it's like, oh well, actually we want to look like this or do this. So
And see, that's the guys in suits at these board meetings that are calling the
yeah,
shots, right?
100%,
So,
right? And it's just because they just need to hit a quota. They just need some big show for the summer. They need some big movie. Like, look, wait, like, again, there's multiple issues, but remember Justice League and Superman and Henry Cavill's mustache, like the original one, and lots of issues with that movie. But then one of the things that came was, well, the reason they want it to for sure to be out in November is because certain execs would get certain bonuses, right? And I'm not saying that happens with everything, but I think this is different time crunches, unfortunately, nowadays, and a lot more pressure on these studios. So hopefully it can look better. But
let me ask you this, and I feel like there are individuals, and maybe this is a very
Jesus.
bold question. What's wrong?
oh, just I thought you might have heard the loud motorcycle. Usually, sometimes you hear
Oh,
it.
I didn't
So
hear it. Do you think that the urgency of maybe putting this show out now and timing it with this month is because they want to capitalize on, I guess, just people that can.
yeah, what do they want to capitalize on?
Well, it's Pride Month, and I feel like this show, if you look at a lot of the marketing and a lot of the actors and the people that have been involved with the show and how they've been just like handling the interviews, what they've been saying, and now obviously they've showcased it in this episode now too, the relationship between two female characters. I feel like it's probably not a coincidence that they're timing it. I mean, Disney and I feel like Star Wars is probably. I mean, it's guys in suits that are looking like, hey, how can we like maximize our profits? And I hate to say that you're looking at something that is like that is culturally impacting and growing and expanding, but it is also looked at from a financial standpoint. Everything is in Hollywood and whatnot. There is always some inkling of financial
Oh yeah.
benefit that people are looking for,
And
right?
even Marvel does that, like when they put Black Panther in February for like the Black History Month. But at the same time, there's like a celebration aspect. I think there's maybe a little bit to that. The only reason I push back is just that none of it's in the marketing. You know, it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
like they're not like it'd be different if the whole show was like this is Star Wars for gay people, and like they're not doing that. And like I would love to see that because I would love just to see just the internet.
A lot
just
of people be mad.
I would just love to see that, just see people get mad for no reason whatsoever. But there's a little bit of that. I think it's also just that it's just churn, and because what do we have other than animation? We don't have a Marvel show until Agatha, right?
That's the
think.
fall, right?
And that's shit. That's like September, bro. You know. But yeah, that's like September, October because Daredevil happened, and remember that all got pushed back. So I think that's just it. Skeleton Crew is like, who knows what the fuck's going on with that? You know, like that's like a show that's been. So I think sure there's a little bit of that, but I think it's just they don't have a big show right now. Agatha, and I don't think Agatha is going to be a big show for them. So they got that in September. I don't even know if Skeleton Crew will be that. Mando's becoming a movie. Ahsoka season 2's in development. That's
So
the
my
thing where it's- like
my
what's the
follow-up-
next even Star Wars show other than Ahsoka season 2 and Skeleton Crew, which announced years ago? We have nothing on the docket right now for shows.
Yeah, nothing that I can think of. I guess my follow up to that is then if they were, because this goes hand in hand with them. Okay, like we have this kind of like relationship between these female characters, and we want to time that with Pride Month. Now we're going to put pressure on our effects team and our whole crew working on this project because we want to time it so we can drop boom 2 episodes and then another episode. Like we want to just pump it out so it's all throughout the month of June. And I feel like, okay, well then that's these investors and these suits trying to maximize their profits probably here and try to time it with landing at Pride Month and putting pressure on this development team when really, you said it here, what do we have? Nothing really until the fall. Well, there's nothing wrong with putting out and creating that more awareness in Pride Month. I think that's great, sure. But I also think that too, you're straining this effects team again by forcing them to meet these deadlines. Unless it was already finished and this is the final result, sure.
Yeah,
but
and that's what I said. It
what
could
I'm-
literally just be that, hey, this crew, like they weren't up to snuff. Like it wasn't a good.
Totally. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is here that you should, these suits will make the calls for whatever financially benefits them. But the fact that there's nothing coming out till the fall, it sucks that, hey, maybe one more month would have done a miracle job for this show and refined it from looking like CW quality. Maybe it would have made it feel a little bit more fine-tuned. It just kind of like tweaks certain things. I don't know. We had this show announced years ago, and it's just it is kind of flabbergasting.
2020. So yeah, 4
Yeah,
years ago.
4 years ago, and the fact that some things aren't necessarily super refined. Yeah, I don't know.
Obi says 2 twins separated and finally reunited, only kill their father. Sound familiar? I'm not sure. Is it something else, or am I missing it? Like, I guess you could say Star Wars, but like, I don't think they're gonna get together to kill their father in this show. Like, I don't. I believe them when they say there's no father here. You know, which to me I thought
That's
was
who
like
the master is. He's the father.
yeah, which I kind of thought was a tribute to Phantom Menace. Her, I know some people might go, oh, it's not special, but her literally saying there was no father. You know, so yeah. Well. That's it, I think, right? Do you got anything else?
The score was great. I love the music in this.
Yeah, I wish they hit a bit more on Star Wars themes. I like it so far. I'm not I don't like hate it or anything, but I wish sometimes like you can use the Force theme for not just the main Skywalkers. You know, you
Yeah.
could throw it in there, especially when she was like feeling the lightsaber. I feel like they had like a few hints to it, but nothing there. But the Force is the father. Oh, I can't see. So you're doing the whole there's a fucking red line. I don't think Eddie's in the chat anymore. Those fucking the father, the daughter, and like that whole shit about the 3 of them and them
That's a
controlling the
Lucas
Force.
creation.
Oh, I know, and that's stupid. I will take midichlorians all day over the fucking the brother, the father, and the sister. Like that's dumb stuff, and I do not like. I know people always say like, oh, it's Clone Wars, like classic stuff, but hey, and that's not for me. That's a red line. But again, you know what I do? I've watched it once. I'm just never gonna go back and watch those episodes because I don't enjoy them, and I don't like anytime it's hinted at. I don't never.
Ahsoka season 2.
I don't
It's
know.
coming.
Yeah, well, and then it's coming. Some failing grades for me, but again, it's not gonna destroy Star Wars. I'll go on next, and hopefully get that Kotar show and not Boba Fett season 2. You know, so well. We've done it. We will be back next week, usually around a similar time, to break down episode 4. We'll talk about that. If Kirkland is on, we'll get his thoughts. And yeah, we'll see what's happening. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Lots of lively discussion, debate. For the most part, everybody, behaving. And that's what we like. We always are welcoming differing opinions, just as long as no one's being a straight up asshole or ignorant of other people. If you're being assholes to other people, I don't really want you. Whether it's here in the Discord, we want to just at the end of the day, we're talking about a show with fake space wizards.
Space wizards.
Yeah. I don't want to. That's why we don't like dicks in the community, because it shouldn't get this serious, and that's where it's been a fun time. So I don't think, Taylor, I can finally ask you: was Star Wars destroyed tonight for you? No, and
that's not.
Star Wars was not destroyed for me yet either. So it's not crossing that big red line. But yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next week, and I promise you it will not be boring. May the Force be with you.